Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here with another Friday Reads. And I'm recording this on Thursday, so happy St. Patrick's Day. You can see I'm wearing my green. I've got green earrings. You can't see them, but I have my shamrock socks on. And in a little while, I'm going to get the corned beef started. So, as I explained in my Celebrate Everything video, we like to celebrate the small holidays and have some fun. So my son will be home for dinner tonight. He wouldn't miss it for anything. So on to what I've been reading. I have had just a spectacular reading week. I am really enjoying my current book. I'm reading one of my Christmas gifts from my husband, The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. Now, I loved Station 11, as did almost everyone else, and I've really been wanting to read this ever since it was released. I see she's got a new book coming out this year, so I guess it took me a while to get to this one, but I finally got to it, and it is wonderful. And it's kind of hard to describe because, isn't that a beautiful cover? Sorry. It really is. And it gives you kind of an impression of what the book is like. There's no magic or fantasy in it, but it's got this kind of mystical feel to it. It's a real life story, realistic story anyway, about a young woman named Vincent. Her mother named her after the poet Edna St. Vincent Millay. So anyway, Vincent grew up, and that's, I think, what's pictured here, on the outer point of Vancouver Island, a very remote wooded area. And the town she grew up in, I'm trying to think what it's called, Cayette, is extremely remote. There's nothing else around. I think they've got like a post office and a general store. A few houses. It's really, really small and remote. And she grew up there. Now she's got a half brother who lives in Toronto and comes out to visit during the summers. And when Vincent was only 14 years old, I think, her mother went out canoeing one day and disappeared, was never seen again. So that was really a difficult time for Vincent, of course. So the rest of her life, which is pretty much what the book's about, she kind of drifts from one thing to another. She goes into Vancouver for a while to live with an aunt. She's really not doing well out here, and her dad's job requires him to be away from home. So she goes to live with an aunt in Vancouver, hangs out for a while with a friend in a dumpy little apartment in Vancouver. Eventually, there's a luxury hotel opened up in Cayette, in her tiny little town. And the idea is it's this luxury hotel that is, surrounded by wilderness. So they kind of joke around about it, that people go there who don't really like being in the wilderness, but like to be near it. So Vincent actually goes back to Cayette and gets a job as a bartender in the hotel. And that's where she meets, let me get the name right, Jonathan Alcides, who she ends up staying with. They don't actually get married, but everyone thinks they're married, and they stay together for a while. Then disaster hits. Things go really bad for Jonathan, and Vincent kind of disappears again, recreates herself again. She gets a job as a cook on a container ship and spends some time out at sea. And what better place to disappear? So I'm trying not to give any spoilers, just sort of the bare bones of the plot. And it's not just about Vincent. Some chapters zero in on her partner Jonathan, or on her half-brother Paul, or on other characters that come into the story. So it is this kind of epic story that covers all these different people, though Vincent's always sort of at the center of it, in all these different places. And, some of the locations, like Cayette on the end of Vancouver Island, or the container ship, are just really unusual, remote, sort of mysterious places. So I'm finding it hard to explain just why this book is so special, because I have been completely immersed in it, just totally engrossed. I'm almost finished now. Sometimes when you've been reading a book for a week or so, you start to feel like, okay, I'm ready for the next book. You're enjoying it, but, you're ready for something different. I'm not feeling like that at all. I never want it to end. I am just totally engrossed in The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. And on audio, I've been listening to a middle grade book for middle grade March. This one, in accordance with the 5 categories, is about an orphan. So it begins with a young girl named Mary, who is deaf and lives as part of a large deaf community on Martha's Vineyard, in the early 1800s. Thomas Jefferson is still president, so that tells you when it takes place. Now, I didn't know this, but I looked it up, and it's true. There's a very large community of deaf people on Martha's Vineyard. They had a hereditary form of deafness that was passed along through the generations. And I guess at the height of it, I'm trying to think what the article I read said, like mid-19th century. By the mid-19th century, it was something like 1 in 150 residents were deaf, which is a much higher ratio than in the general population. So anyway, Mary is 14 years old. She's deaf, but she's grown up in a loving family and in this very supportive community where pretty much everyone knows sign language and, is used to engaging with deaf people. So at that time in history, deafness was often considered something scary, something unusual, something mysterious, but not in Mary's community. It's very normal where she's from. So she gets a letter from a friend of hers in Boston who asks her to come visit and help teach a little girl. The little girl is deaf, but she's been horribly mistreated and abused at this place where she's living. And she's an orphan. That's where the orphan part comes in. So Mary travels to Boston. This is a big deal for her. She's 15 or 14. She has not spent too much time off island, except for some really bad experiences that I guess were covered in a different book. So this isn't exactly a sequel. It's described as a companion novel. The first book was called Show Me a Sign. Oh, and I didn't mention, I don't think I even mentioned the title. This book is called Set Me Free, and it's by Anne Claire Lizotte. So the first book that she wrote about Mary was called Show Me a Sign, and that covered some of Mary's earlier experiences. So now Mary's traveled to Boston. She's there to help this girl, but she sees immediately this girl is being abused. She's being kept in horrific conditions. And Mary, she's excited about teaching another deaf person, but she's not sure if it's even possible to teach someone who's 8 years old and has never known any language. So, she knows it's going to be a struggle, but there are things she didn't expect to have to struggle with that she comes across in this creepy house where the girl is being kept, basically a prisoner. So that's the setup. I don't want to give any more away because it's a wonderful story. I'm really, really enjoying it. Mary's a great character, and the whole setup is just really intriguing and interesting. It's a very different kind of story than what I've read before. It's interesting to learn more about Mary's deaf culture and community where she grew up, and the whole process of, at first I thought, oh, this is going to be like Helen Keller and her teacher, but there's a lot more going on here. So I'm really enjoying it so far. It's great on audio, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So that's Set Me Free by Anne Claire Lizotte. And that's my middle grade March book for this week on audio. So that's what I'm reading this week. I would love to hear what you're reading. Let me know about it down below.